Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Claire Bahn, who is a personal branding expert. Claire, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
Hey, so I'm excited to talk about this topic because it is so critical for entrepreneurs today, and I think that it is overlooked, and I think it goes way beyond, let me get a pretty headshot and a logo. So I want to hear all about that, but give us a little bit of background on yourself, what led you in your career to focus on personal branding.
Well, I have a background in branding and events and all sorts of marketing, working for Fortune 500 companies in New York. But I was also an actress. And what was interesting that I really learned is that I could formulate what jobs I should be getting based on my personal brand. And that's really how it all came about. I had actors come to me to do their personal brand, and then it just kind of led from there. I help people with their online dating profiles, and it just kind of really all snowballed. And then I was an entrepreneur, and then I had a lot of entrepreneurs coming to me to help them. So it really just happened very organically.
Well, that's really interesting because I think you think typically, personal branding, that's because you want to be seen as a thought leader or a consultant or a coach or a speaker, and coming out of the acting field, you have to stand out. And I think that becomes very common in the industry, whether it's acting. And I also think that even VPs or people in the business world feel like, if that branding, that's for the entrepreneurs out there. I work for myself, or I work for I'm a VP for a company. But I have a theory that if you are a VP or a company, for instance, or a high-ranking person wanting to go higher, how do you just stand out? How do you distinguish yourself? And maybe that personal brand with your thought leadership gets to be developed. And then now maybe when you go for promotions or you're sought out even for promotions, that personal branding can be that catalyst. Have you thought of that or seen of that in your work?
Well, that's what we do. We have concierge clients, and we work with investors, angel investors, VCs. We also work with executives. We have a CMO of a company, and what was interesting is we did such an amazing job on his personal brand that his company said, hey, can you just mention us a couple times? They wanted a little bit of the juice flow to go to them. But definitely, we see, I know we were talking about like the ROI on your personal brand, and basically that's it. Basically, you work on your personal brand, you put all of the effort in there, and there's this tipping point where people will start coming to you, business opportunities start coming to you, deal flow if you're an angel investor that we work with. If you are an entrepreneur, you have your own business, customers will start coming to you, press will start coming to you, partners. If you are an executive, it'll be, career opportunities and things like that. That is what we see. And it's kind of one of those things where you start to see this ROI, but you can't let your foot off the gas. It's something that doesn't just like you do it and it's done. It needs to be consistent for it to consistently work. So
that is a thing that I think we could probably spend another 4 hours on that one statement right there. Because I say this all the time to clients, because I focus on authority positioning. And for entrepreneurs, you need to be seen as an expert. You have to stand out, and you need to be seen by doing certain things. And how do you be seen as an expert? Well, maybe you need to have your own podcast, be on podcast, have media, have a book, all those things, right? But guess what? You cannot just check the box and go, cool, I was interviewed once, done. Oh, I was mentioned in the media once, done. So it's got to be consistent. And here's the other thing. Think about Malcolm Gladwell, the tipping point. How consistent do you need to be to have that tipping point so that things can be coming toward you? Question mark. There's no formula for that. You just need to do it, right? Do you remember back in the day, and I say back in the day, maybe it was 10 years ago, but do you remember when content marketing was a thing?
Content marketing, you still need to do it.
Right,
it's not
but
completely
guess what?
dead because
it's not
Google
a thing anymore because it's so commonplace. You must do content marketing to be considered a good marketer. It's no longer like, oh, here's this new nuance of marketing. Content marketing is the shift between pushing and pulling, right? So this is where I feel authority positioning / personal branding is now. It is now the new thing where people are going, ooh, I'm becoming aware of this. But you can't just do it once. And I feel like now is the time for people to be focusing on their personal brand so that all of these things happen. But you got to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And I tell you, I guess what I would say is, once you do like first pass through, one of your clients, personal branding, we need to do these things, all these things. At what point do you start going, okay, now here's how we amp it up a notch, and here's how we take it up another notch to now build off of your personal brand? What does that look like for your clients when you work with them?
Well, basically, we always think of it in terms of search, right? Google search. So that's really important because when someone's going to look you up and find out what your personal brand is, they're probably going to do a search, and it's probably going to be on Google. So we want to make sure we first, have, because obviously we work with people that are just like, they have so many skills, right? They've done so many things. So you're like, what's the one thing that we can give you a win in the first 3 months, right? We can make sure that you're kind of like owning this keyword essentially. So we figure out like where we can get them the first win, and then we kind of build from there to really solidify that expertise. So it's not like a, kind of spray and pray. We're just going to do everything and a little bit of it. No, we really focus on like the one keyword. Like, I mentioned angel investors. So it's like with our angel investors, we do angel investing in their local area. So if they're Los Angeles based or they're San Francisco based, we focus on. So when someone looks up angel investor Los Angeles, angel investor San Francisco, our clients show up first. And that's the kind of thing that we do. We also have like a D2C expert. We want him to start showing up in that D2C space, but it's very competitive. So we found other keywords that we felt that he could own first to then layer on to that D2C. So that's essentially kind of how it works. It's all about search, getting those initial wins and then adding to it. Because you can tackle those harder keywords, but you need to tackle the other ones first. Because if you don't rank for anything, I mean, it helps that you rank for something, because Google kind of go, okay, maybe we can give you more if your website actually ranks for something. If it ranks for nothing, it doesn't help you.
Yeah, and so now you're bringing up a point that I want to kind of dive into, which is when people see you on search, however they get there, maybe they Google your name, maybe they Google your company, maybe a keyword. When they get to see things about you, how do you make sure that what they see is all polished up and really good? And what I mean by that is, obviously, you need to have no bad reviews, like, oh, this person's horrible. You need to not have that. You need to have good reviews. But then what about when people, I feel like people kind of gloss over, the website because they know, oh, that's their sales mechanism, or LinkedIn. Okay, I'll look at that. But then they start looking for other things like, well, what else about them am I seeing? So maybe we want to see that they've been mentioned in the media or interviewed on or featured in, things like that. But what are you helping your clients do to be seen in that elevated status for their brand?
It's basically, an omni-channel approach. You don't just want to focus on one thing. I do think the website is very important because that does give someone, it's like basically like seeing like your house, or kind of like how you present yourself, like how you show up for an interview. It's your website. How are you showing up? How professional is it? And I definitely think that when someone does a Google search on you, or even a topic, you want a piece of content or something that you created either on YouTube or whatever to show up first. You want to be that authority in that space that people can find and they go, oh, wow, that spoke to me. I should follow them on social media. I should subscribe to their blog. But beyond that, I mean, it is about really just making sure that you are doing consistent content so that when someone does a specific search on your name, all of that content, you are basically owning the narrative. You're taking it away from somebody else. Every bit of content out there on that first page of Google about you is your own content. It is your narrative. It's what you want people to know about you now. So it's that consistency factor.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's really super insightful. Let's talk a little bit about ROI. You mentioned that in passing, but is there an actual way to calculate an ROI on your personal brand like you would on an ad spend? I spent $100 on this ad and I made X because we can actually track it. But can you actually track ROI on a personal brand?
Well, the first thing that I think, we need to get out there is that you already have a personal brand. So I can Google you now and I can get a gut reaction. Is it good? Is it bad? So you can decide not to do anything with your personal brand and somebody else owns your narrative. So first and foremost, that's just something you need to get out of the way and you need to realize. So if you are going to own your personal brand, personally, I haven't ever seen it not work for somebody if you are really an expert. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things you can't fake it until you make it. You really need to create content and do video and do all of these things and be an authoritative person in this space. Because if you're not, someone else is going to rise to the top. So you need to actually be what you say you are. You can't just fake it. But basically, as I said, if you are working really hard, you're being very consistent, and it will gain momentum, and there is that tipping point where business opportunities and all this stuff will start coming to you as long as you are consistently working on it. I mean, it's a consistent thing that you need to do for any business. You need to work on a brand and your marketing and all of that sort of stuff. This is just the personal side of it. So there's not this really, I mean, I guess you could really just track, what were my business opportunities, at the beginning of this month, and then just keep tracking how things change. But again, it's going to be, you're going to have to check, obviously, your emails. Is someone emailing me to ask me to speak at this event? Wow, that never happened before. That's the kind of thing you're going to have to do. It's not like just going into your Google Analytics and saying, wow, I really see this difference. Look at all these sales. You literally have to go through and kind of do a manual audit of what has changed.
And, I would even say regarding manual, maybe when you start hearing from people, phone calls, appointments, emails, and bringing on new clients, ask them, hey, how'd you find me? And it sounds laborious, but probably the people in your that you're working with, it's not thousands a day. It's going to be handfuls a week. So ask that question and find out. And then when you start noticing they noticed this or they heard me on, and many times I'll get a book sale, and I will email the person and go, hey, I heard you on this podcast. So okay, that podcast guesting or podcast episodes, that's working. Or maybe when you want to book yourself as a speaker, live, virtual podcast, whatever, and maybe start noticing, you know what, in the last few months I've been amping up my personal brand, and man, I'm getting a whole lot more yeses than I was before. And maybe it's not exactly quantifiable, but I think you start noticing things like that, right?
Right. And that's the kind of thing that we definitely notice with our clients. It's just it was harder for them to get things coming directly to them, and then all of a sudden it's just wow, this is amazing. Kind of these things that I really wanted to happen have started to happen. And even if I approached somebody in the past, they may not have taken my meeting, and now they are. Because again, it's I can do a search on you, and before you may not have seemed worthy, for lack of a better word, but now you do, because of the fact that I can see your expertise, and I can see the things that you've done before, and it's outlined very nicely, and you can actually prove it. Yes.
Well, I guess we'll kind of wrap up with that point you just made there, because that's a pretty big one. You can, I don't know, the thoughts coming to my mind, and it probably is a dumb one, but way back in some politician made this comment, putting lipstick on a pig. So you can put lipstick on a pig and still you're a pig. So you can polish up that personal brand, but if you don't have integrity, authenticity, if you don't treat people the right way, if you don't have a good program, whatever, then what is all that done? So you've got to have both of those things. Now, on the other hand, what if you've got the best the best approach to treating people and the best system, and you're invisible? Now that's the worst thing, because you've got this great thing and people don't see you. So you have to have both.
Right. And one of the things that I kind of look at it is, if you know all of this sort of stuff and you want these opportunities to come to you and you see that your competitors are getting it and they are less qualified, it's because they're consistent. Don't let them own that space because I definitely have seen that where I'm like, who is this person? And they came out of left field. What are they doing? How are they an expert? And so that's the kind of thing you need to say, okay, you know what? I'm right now, this is where it stops. I am going to take ownership of my personal brand, and it is going to start right now. I'm going to be consistent. It's something you can definitely do on your own. I mean, obviously we have clients that hire us. I also have a DIY program for people that want to learn how to do a lot of the stuff that we do and they want to do it themselves. But take ownership right now. Don't let those other people steal your thunder. Take your jobs. Take your opportunities. Go and get them now. Work on your personal brand. There's no better way to do it because it comes to you because of what you've done, and that's the kind of great thing about it. People can really kind of do their research on you, and they say, you know what, this isn't just a person in this space. This is the best person in this space. I mean, I have people coming to me to work on their personal brand, and some of them have found me just doing the exact same things that I'm sitting here talking about. They found me by a YouTube video I did, or they saw something that I posted on LinkedIn, or they found me when they were searching for something in Google, and they're like, "Wow, I saw all these things," and they'll actually quote me back to me. Love it. Yeah. But that's the kind of thing you need to make sure that you really are showing up, and here's one of the things, too, that I want to also mention is that one of the biggest things and one of the greatest ways to get people on your side and have these opportunities coming to you is if you essentially give them wins. If you give them great information, if you are basically 80 to 85% giving great information, trying to help people, really trying to help people, not asking them to go and buy this and sell this thing or anything like that. You literally are saying, this is a tip, go do it, and then tell me how it worked. That kind of stuff, giving people those wins, that's how people really start to go, oh, I get it, and I like her because she gave me a win. She didn't try to tell me to buy this thing or do this thing for her. She just said, here, go do this. Here's my gift for you.
Have you ever read the book by Bob Burg called The Go-Giver?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you need to do that today.
All right, I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, Go-Giver, Bob Burg, B-U-R-G. Okay. You can just go to Amazon. I'm sure Kindle is probably $8-9 at most. You'll read it in 2 days. I mean, it's a quick read. It's written in fictional story format. It is a spectacular book. I've read it probably 5 times, and then he's got a whole series: Go-Givers Sell More, Go-Giver Influencer. And the whole gist of it is what you just said, which is don't ask. Give, give value, give time, give resources, give ideas, and then when you give people like, enough already, good night, how can I help you? And it's a mindset shift. So really, really spectacular book. But it really ties into what you just said there. And I've had Bob Burg on my show a couple different times, and he is just spectacular. So definitely read it, and then
I will
shoot a YouTube video about how great it was and help Bob make more book sales.
Definitely will. Thank you for the recommendation. I just wrote it down. But yeah, it's so true. So,
last question: where should someone start? They hear all this and they're like, love it, got it, I can take ownership, I can start on my own, I can start reaching out. But where should they start when building their personal brand?
Own your name. And by that, I mean get your domain name. Then you're going to want to get all of the social media handles, like literally get every social media that exists, every profile that can possibly exist, TikTok, everything. And have it be the exact same. Like, for instance, my website is clairebahn.com, and I have @ClaireBahn across the board. If you have a very common name and you can't get your name, right, use a middle initial. Like I give the example of Michael Jordan and Michael B. Jordan. Like you need to make sure that you are actually the one that shows up for that name, because you don't want to obviously compete against something that's very famous, especially if they're totally different than what you are, right? So that is the thing. Own your name and then get it across all of the channels that you can. So that's the biggest thing, because that is what is, when we were talking before about showing up for the first page for your name, that's how you're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Very good. Well, that's a great place to start. Let's go ahead and wrap up with what's the best way people can reach out, connect with you, learn more about what you offer. I know that you've got some personal brand quiz and assessments, so that would be helpful on your website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so clairebahn.com is the best way to find me, and I am at Claire Bahn on everything. You can, there aren't many Claire Bahns out there, so that's good, but I do own that space. But yeah, that's where to find me, and I have a personal branding masterclass that I'm going to be relaunching that in the next couple of weeks, so that should be coming out as well, and it's free, 5-day masterclass. So that, along with the branding quiz that I do as well. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, Claire, thank you so much for coming on today. It was really fun talking about personal branding.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.